Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's wonderful to be here on such an exciting topic with such incredible panelists. A quick introduction to myself. So I am the CEO of Hardacre & Co., an organization that is focused on helping businesses transform through purpose. I will just say I'm not nervous, I'm just really cold, and I think I can speak on behalf of everybody that our teeth are chattering up here. Back to Hardacre & Co. So inspired by my former role as the Managing Director of Etihad Guess, which is the travel and lifestyle loyalty program of Etihad Airways. With an Etihad Guess, we transformed and pioneered a number of market-leading initiatives, namely one which was an aviation first for a sustainability chapter of a loyalty program, which we called Conscious Choices. I've recently finished my studies in sustainability leadership, so my passion is even greater. So it could not be more timely to welcome three incredible panelists with such breadth of experience who also have incredible examples of how purpose, mindfulness, and intention deliver change makers and significant difference in the field of sustainability. So, Cynthia, I will hand over to you first to introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much. Such a great honor and pleasure to be here. I flew all the way from Stockholm, Sweden. I'm here representing the Harvard Business School Club of Sweden, and also I'm the CEO of Antara's Global Impact Capital.
Thank you. Arnaud.
Thank you for having us here in Riyadh. I'm Arnaud. I'm the CEO and founder of Decahydron, where we are doing decarbonization as a service. I have about 25 years of experience in the oil and gas, focused mainly on CCUS. I have about 100 million tons of CO2 sequestered in my active, and I'm hoping to achieve 1 billion a year in the next 10 years.
Hello, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be with you all today. I feel like we're all sitting in a nest and we each have an egg of innovation that we're hatching here. So I look forward to the conversation. I teach at Harvard University. I'm also a part of the Harvard Catalyst for Translational Medicine and Science, as well as being on the Zoonomia Consortium of the Broad Institute, which is also part of Harvard and MIT. And in addition to that, I work with indigenous cultures around the world and am probably considered one of the foremost experts on the narwhal, if any of you are narwhal fans.
Excellent. Thank you. I think we're going to start with a question as to what does sustainability mean to you all? Because it's a phrase very well used, in some cases maybe overused, but I think for three experts representing the industry with varying different lenses, what does it really mean to you? Martin, I might ask you to start.
I think sustainability, rather than thinking of it as a discipline or something we study, is a way of being. It's a connectedness to Mother Earth, to understand and appreciate that we are given all these gifts on this wonderful planet, and that we have to figure out a way to thank her in a way that's meaningful. And not just with, paper straws, but really a way of thinking about her in every action that we do. I think about it with the idea of collaboration and cooperation between countries, and I commend the GCC, developed in 1961, for having these visions to address these issues and be aligned with Earth and all the resources that connect us, water, air, soil, and even spirit.
Thank you. Arnaud.
For me, sustainability is how do you use resources today to ensure growth in a way that doesn't impact the future generation. And this is something that I really try to do in my day-to-day life. And also I would go even further, that not only you need to leave resources for the next generation, but you need to improve the world today so that the future generation have a better life. And that's one of the reasons why I've started Decahydron, where we are working on carbon capture and mineralization. And we looked at how to capture CO2 to make life better for the future generation. But also we looked at it so that we don't use other resources. If you look at carbon capture and mineralization nowadays, a lot of people use a lot of water to achieve this. Our technology, in fact, removes the use of water. And in fact, we will even produce water out of our system. And that's one thing that I think needs to be done in other industry, where we need to improve the way we use resources and create more resources for the future generation.
Brilliant. Thank you. Cynthia.
So just to fully agree with both of you, we talk about this word sustainability. So it's sustain, that's number one, the ability to sustain. So in my world, we talk about sustainability refers to the ability to meet the need of the present without compromising the need for the future generation of their own needs. So it encompasses environmental, social, as well as economic considerations. So which you talk about in everything that if you cannot put into your balance sheet, it is very difficult to, and if you cannot measure, it's very difficult to develop because there's no economic value. We all know anything in our society, if we do not bring it into economic value, it's very difficult to calculate. So what we have been talking about social capital, the human capital, and the financial capital, and how we talk about the nature capital. We regarding nature as part of our, like infrastructure, as part of the critical infrastructure. Therefore, I think the sustainability is really the long-term thinking with consideration of the current.
Thank you. And I think to recap, naturally there's some words used, and I think in maybe different contexts, but really, and to your point, Martin, is this holistic perspective, not just today, but also looking forward. And so Cynthia, I might pass back to you as well. So the name of your company, which I personally love, Brain Heart, in various different scenarios, you use that name. I would love you to talk a little bit more about that, because I think what we've just touched on is it's so inclusive and all-encompassing. It's something that is represented in your business name and how that impacts your investments.
Thank you very much, Kim. Brain Heart is my family office. I'm a first-generation principal. So when we talk Brain Heart, it's not only everything you do with the brain and you do with the heart. It's actually every letter had a meaning. Brain stands for balance. So everything we do in life, we need a balance. How much you take from the ground, how much you extract, how much you give back, you regenerate, and including work and family balance, so that everything is a balance. R stands for resilience. So right now we talk about food security, resilient cities, water security, including financial and business. Are we building resilient culture, a resilient leadership? So this is resilience. So that's number 2. A stands for authenticity. I stand for integrity. N stands for nobility. So everything we do, we have to do with very noble purpose. So then when it comes to heart, that's humility and a good health. Because when we become prosperous, then what we do, most people we see often that people become very arrogant and become irresponsible. When it comes to absolute power, often comes with absolute corruption. So this is what we face in society, in culture. So therefore, humility is one of very important things. And healthy body leads to a healthy mind. So that's why these two are interlinked. Then E is empowerment. We've been talking about the female empowerment and empowerment of the global south. So empowerment is very important, including the company. Should one-man show or having the founder's mentality, or do you empower your people, delegate? So this empowerment is very important. So after empowerment, then what you come with is accountability. You have to be accountable for the power you have given. So then R is respect. T stands for trust. So I think that is the foundation or so to say pillars for me and my family. And I do think that by having this kind of brain heart culture, you can definitely build sustainable economy, sustainable culture.
Thank you. Martin, if I may pass this next to you as well, because I think a lot of the vocabulary Cynthia just were tap into some of the true values and some of these human values, which within your work with the Indigenous communities and their true relationship or integrated relationship with nature may represent that, but from a different lens. Would you be able to share some examples with us?
Yeah, sure. So just as background, I have lived with 5 or 6 different indigenous groups around the world. I've lived with the Ticuna Indians and Yagua Indians in South America, the Kogi. I've lived with the Yapese Islanders in Micronesia, and most recently have spent really about the last 15 years with the Inuit in the high Arctic. And interestingly enough, I see these as the real sustainable populations. These are people that live a subsistence life for the most part. What they hunt, what they find, they eat. There's very little waste. There's an appreciation for everything that's given. So for example, when the Inuit hunt, there's a custom where they take a cup full of snow, put it in their mouth, and let it pour into a seal's mouth or a whale's mouth as a way of combining the spirit. There's very much a spiritual connection that I think in many cultures we have lost. Fortunately, I think in this region you still hold on to some of that spiritual connection. And I think this is essential to understand sustainability. I think this is very much a part of how we connect again with Mother Earth. And these people, I think these indigenous cultures have a lot to teach us. So my wife and I, for example, have written a graphic novel. It's now translated in 3 different languages. And we're hoping to bring something like that to this region as well, so that people understand and appreciate, for example, that science is one way to think. It's not the way to think. And when you compare indigenous cultures, for example, to indigenous cultures are much more contextual. They see their whole environment as a unit. We in the West often see isolated pieces. We're reductionist. We look for certain isolated pieces. I'm in the medical field, so we see the same thing in surgery, right? We see a problem, let's cut it out. Let's get surgery, as opposed to understanding how it really affects the whole body and indeed the spirit.
Thank you. Arnaud, I might take a step from Martin as well, and within your engineered carbon capture, you're also using the earth to, I suppose, regenerate and give back versus a traditional carbon capture model of planting forests. Would you like to add anything else to that?
Yes, so our technology uses Mother Earth as we are using a rock which is called ultramafic rock, which is normally found deep down in the earth, about 20 kilometers down in the earth mantle. And we are lucky that here in the GCC, it has been thrusted up at the surface, and it is accessible. And the beauty of this rock is that it's a chemical battery. And if you inject CO2 into those rocks, it transforms the CO2 into a carbonate mineral, so that you store the CO2 indefinitely and in a sustainable way. The other aspect of this rock, which is very unique, is that it produces natural hydrogen. And we've all heard about how hydrogen is the fuel of the future, and everybody is talking about green hydrogen. And what we found out is going to revolutionize the energy industry is that we don't need to use water to create green hydrogen. We can extract natural hydrogen from this ultramafic rock by conventional techniques that is used in the oil and gas. And this hydrogen is going to be carbon neutral. And in fact, it could be carbon negative, because in the same rock, we are going to inject CO2 that will help us extract this natural hydrogen. So our vision is to really use this gift from nature, this chemical battery, to not only clean up the earth from all the CO2 that we've emitted with fossil fuel, but also generate this sustainable form of energy that is natural hydrogen.
Wonderful, thank you. I think you touch on a good point, and if we change gears a little bit to talk about action, and I think one of the big topics is the concept of a business case for sustainability. And Cynthia, you touched on it as well, of how we look at our assets and our natural capital, or we've talked about today our human capital, and how we make those investments, but also we look at these truly as assets like we would other parts of our business. So switching gears, and Cynthia, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about your experience in Europe and around the world in this business case for sustainability, and how you've seen that really change this perspective. So businesses like Decahydron and other startups around the world can learn and take this forward, because, as Arnaud says, it's innovation, it's technology that's really helping to change the landscape.
Thank you, Kim. When it comes to sustainability, I think one very crucial thing where Sweden as a country in the world is leading is actually system thinking. Because sustainability is not one thing, it's not one element. It's about infrastructure, such as energy infrastructure, such as building infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, industry infrastructure, which is producing cement, steel, aluminum, etc., and as well as water, wastewater management infrastructure, as well as waste, circular economy infrastructure, and the food, agriculture, and food supply infrastructure. So all of this has to be integrated together. So Kim, you touch upon one topic on natural capital, where I mentioned also a little bit before. I also had a very good conversation with one of the attendees here from Harvard, where imagine Saudi. So my idea of Saudi before this trip was, I've never been here before. My kind of Arab world was very mysterious to me. However, the idea I had was camels with sand and sand dunes, as well as the water wells and oasis. That was my kind of imagination of Arab world. Maybe old, because that was from the Lawrence of Arabia. However, but that shows one thing, indigenous practice, because in the old time, until we have discovered the hydrocarbon buried, the dead buried in the ground, we have been always be living in the very lively world. Everything of value is your natural value. It's like how much the land could contribute. For example, trees can grow, and trees, not timbers, but that's dead. Trees can grow, cows, cattle, you can grow camels, and also food, such as soil, kind of nutrient in the soil, how much water the soil can contain, carbon the soil can contain, as well as many other things such as biodiversity. So if the land have much higher of all of this value, the land value increase, the produce of the land increase. So that in the Western world, especially in Sweden, Nordic country, start to very much look into how do we also value nature as one of the critical infrastructure. Because if we look into our power lines, look at our railways, those are transportation industry, so to say, power line is our, so to say, energy infrastructure. What we will do, we will give maintenance needed, but we seldom do needed maintenance into nature as a critical infrastructure. We, Martin, as you mentioned, we humans have been so disconnected with our nature because we have ever since we discovered the hydrocarbon, all the energy from the ground, and we use them to propel our growth. But however, by that, we have been living in the air and not connect with the Mother Earth. So I think right now, the true sustainability is to really rediscover and reconnect us with back to nature, including bring down the carbon which we have emitted in the air back to the ground. However, GS, the global greenhouse gas emission, It's not only the GHG, it's not only carbon dioxide, such as methane is 56 times more harmful than carbon dioxide, and the sulfur dioxide is 280 times more as global greenhouse effect than carbon dioxide. So industry create many more of greenhouse gas, which we generally speaking don't talk about it because it's too complicated, and also there are some industries lobbying not to talk about it. So however, so if we really think about the sustainability globally in the whole, we have to take it as a overall systematic thinking.
Yes, thank you. That's great. Arnaud, would you like to talk to the business case for sustainability in a new industry and I suppose changing the face of sustainability? Anything you would like to add to that about how, or words of wisdom about building the business case for sustainability?
Yeah. So I would like to, I will comment on what you say. You are extremely right to talk about not just CO2, but also methane emission. And this is something that we need to get the oil and gas industry accountable for, because it is not acceptable the amount of methane that is being released in the atmosphere by the oil and gas industry. It's something we've known for quite a long time, and not, in my view, not enough things being done. And COP28 was very good at pointing this out, and I'm hoping that flaring and methane gas emission will be reduced by the oil and gas industry. But that's really something that is easily fixed at a very low cost compared to CO2 capture and sequestration. So it's something that we really need to focus on, especially here in the GCC. As for sustainability and the economy, how do we do this? I think it is very important that we reach an agreement worldwide on carbon credits and how we can trade the carbon credits between countries. It is, for me, the only way we can speed up our decarbonization, because otherwise we have a global problem with a local solution, and that's not going to work. We really need a global solution to this problem. And for me, it was a bit unfortunate that at COP28 we couldn't reach an agreement on those carbon credits and on ITMO. And I really hope that the next COP we will reach something, because that would unlock a lot of technology for carbon sequestration.
Great, thank you. I'm just aware of time and I would definitely like to open to the floor for questions, but before I do, a quick summary, if I can, from all of you. You have a wonderful, open, we're in a university, there's so much openness and opportunity. If you were to leave one takeaway with the audience, whether that's a takeaway, that's an action, that's inspiration, and also how the Harvard Business School could help, what would that be? Martin.
So I served on 2 health foundations, and I searched the world for what the definition of health might be. And as you might imagine, I looked on the great walls of medical schools and read books. And interestingly enough, I found the answer in the writings of 2 of my favorite healthcare providers, Mother Teresa and Albert Schweitzer. And interestingly enough, they both came to the same conclusion with a word that I would have never associated. And that word is contained in your greeting here in the Arab world. Assalamu alaikum. Peace is the word that both of these healthcare providers associated with health. So when Mother Teresa held children with their last gasping breath, it was that calm sense before they would pass away, that peace that gave them health. That, I think, is the goal. The process, I think, is through love. And I leave you with the words of the 13th century mystic Persian prophet Rumi, who said, "You see growth in the leaves of every plant, and what you sow bears fruit." So you see, my friend, if you have any sense at all you will plant love. Thank you.
Well, tough act to follow. So, for me, the sustainability, to achieve sustainability, there's no silver bullet, but there's silver buckshot. There's plenty of different solutions that we have to try. And we need to be open-minded on what we will try, and especially because it's Harvard Business School, on what will get funding. Do not get focused on the new gadget. Look at all the possibilities and do your due diligence on what could be the most sustainable way to achieve this result. And as a final message, I'm the CEO of a startup, and as always, we're always looking for fun things.
Brilliant, thank you. And you, Cynthia?
When it comes to Harvard Business School, I would say that Harvard Business School is actually, together with other institutions such as INSEAD and Stanford and etc., leading the sustainability transition. Because from Professor George Serafin, he started the impact-weighted accounting. Right now, globally, this has been gradually implemented into all the accounting systems. Hopefully that will become by law. At least European Union is very much supporting impact-weighted accounting practice. Very soon, nature-weighted accounting will also come out. So I think that female empowerment, to mobilize the other 50% of the workforce, and most people, we have heard from this morning's excellent panels that when female are in charge or at least participate in the business, the return, the RR, skyrocket. So, which we really need to utilize this. And also this will also help the Global South, not only during the COP28, I was there from day 1, December 1st, invited by the UAE government. So all the negotiation happen is really how the Global South will come together with the Global North. So there are a lot of requirements come to the Global North. And when I talked to the Kenyan president, he said, if you put nature as a capital, there's a price on nature, we will be one of the richest countries in the world. Truly. So the thing is, we must also prize nature, prize sustainability, and for everyone to come together in a systematic way. Not everyone have their own standard, everyone have their own ways, but do everyone work under the global, so to say, perspective, and also in the kind of global standardization. So that will be my thinking.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, over to you all. First hand up in the front row, please.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, distinguished panelists, for a very enlightening and enriching perspective about the topic of the day. My name is Walid Al-Somali. I'm currently an advisor at the Ministry of Investment. Before that, I was with the Saudi Arabian oil company, Saudi Aramco, where I worked 41 years before I retired January of last year. And sustainability has always been a topic of interest in the oil and gas industry. So the question that I have for the distinguished panelists is about the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, the 17 SDGs. And I see in the corporate world there is an emphasis on ESG, and they are part of their reporting systems. However, I would like to hear your thoughts. What can be done to promote the implementation of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals in a way that will be impactful and sustainable? I don't see there are many, particularly maybe among the academic sectors and maybe at corporate, realizing the importance of these 17 goals and trying to map their operating model with them. 2030 is not far away from now, 6 years from now. And the record says that the whole world is failing in achieving these goals based on United Nations reports. So what can be done? What can be done to educate people, create awareness, and make determination to achieve these sustainable development goals that the world agreed to implement by 2030? Thank you very much.
Great question. Thank you. Who would like to take it?
I can have a go. For me, you answered your own question. Part of it is education. We need to educate people on those issues. And also there is leadership. We need somebody from the top to guide the way. And I think here in the GCC, people are pretty good at that, at showing an example of what needs to be done. That's my...
I would agree with you, Arnaud. I think education is a key piece of information. In the books that we've done, for example, we've addressed at least 13 of the SDGs. But I'm going to break the box for you on this stage, since you are a center of innovation here. I challenge the conception of the SDGs to begin with. And I did this because when I was thinking about how indigenous people view what sustainability is, it's a very different world, and it's a different set of SDGs. And I would be very interested to see how other people view what sustainability is, and not necessarily the political entity. Although I cherish it, I think it's a great guideline, I don't think it addresses all the issues that need to be addressed.
Cynthia, please.
Very good question. Actually, to answer all your questions will take a very long time. So, fully agree with my panelists. Number one, education, as always, because that's human power. It's a human capital. And also second would be to put nature on a balance sheet. Because Peter Drucker has said famously, what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. The thing is, the reason that we do so much things to destroy nature is because we have no measurement on how much the capital loss actually we occur. We actually make it happen. Because, for example, recently there are $1.5 trillion on insurance just to cover the nature loss due to the climate migration and also the sea water rising as well as flood. So all of this, if we instead of using those money for loss, if we give it instead of minus, always saying, okay, sustainability have a bracket of minus, less, make it be plus. So everything you do on sustainability, you will be rewarded. That is accountable and also on your balance sheet. So financial incentive, as you talk about, leadership, education is super important. But however, to incentivize that, you have to make it happen. So people really want to do it. So that is financial incentivization. Put nature on balance sheet. For everything that you do, have a price to it. Then you'll be rewarded. And sustainability, it will be achieved by 2030 and 2050 net zero.
And Walid, if I may also add, is starting somewhere is at least a step forward. I think a lot of organizations around the world have been scared of being labeled as greenwashing, for example. So making a step forward, even though it may be small, can sometimes come with a lot of fear or a lot of risk potentially as an organization. And I think to add to what we've all said is education, knowledge is power, is how you engage those around you, whether it's your family, whether it's your colleagues, whoever that may be, engaging in that strategy, because together you're always more powerful as opposed to independently doing it yourself.
Before we all leave, I'm hosting the Stockholm Climate Leadership Forum for world, especially Nordic European leaders, ministers, prime ministers, coming together and talk about climate change. So for esteemed guests here from this region, whom usually you don't travel that far to the Northern Europe, you are more than welcome to come and join. We'll be on October 4th, 2024.
Thank you.